Right, hi, I'm just going to show you colour mixing for skin tones. I'm going to go through all different variations of colours and show you mixing it on my palette, which is just below me. I'm going to go through it. So the basic principles are any yellow and red is going to give you a peachy orangey colour. You add the white to lighten it, and then the blues are going to give you your shadows. So, and you can mix the blue with the red to give you a purple for a purple shadow, and you can mix the blue with the yellow to give you a green shadow. I know this is a lot of information to start with, but just bear with me. I'll mix them up so one by one and gradually, so you can get to grips. So you can, I always think you can use absolutely anything, but I'll go through the different combinations you can use. And then whatever one that you love or whatever colours that you have, just stick with those and use those for your Johns. And I'll do a couple and then I'm going to hold them up to, I've got a printout of John, which if I'd known it'd be cancelled this soon, I wish I'd given them all to you last week so you could have them as your reference, but hopefully you've at least got them from the slides that I sent out, so you've got it as a either a digital image, or if you're lucky to have a printer. I don't have a printer at home. Hopefully you can print it off at home. So but I'll try and colour match to his skin tone in that image to see what the best one is as well. So what I've got here, I've just laid out yellow ochre, cadmium red, titanium white, and it's meant to be ivory black, but I've only got Mars black, and this is the Zorn colour palette. So the famous artist Zorn, who painted amazing portraits, he painted all his portraits in just these colours, and the idea, the ivory black is a bluey black that's giving you the bluey and greeny tones, but I'm going to go with my Mars black, so I'll mix them up in a second to show you those. I've also got here a cadmium yellow, a alizarin crimson. I've got a process yellow. This is my substitute for lemon yellow because I don't have a lemon yellow, so I'm going to use that as my substitute for lemon yellow. And then I've also got a permanent rose, an ultramarine blue, a burnt sienna, and a raw umber. So I'm going to do just a few variations of all of them, bit by bit, not all together, but just to show you all the colours that I've got so far. And I'll be using them all in my wet palette. So this has got all the whites and the blacks and the greys from doing the underpainting, and I'm going to start to mix them up over in these sections. So I've just put out some yellow ochre here, I've got some cadmium red here, I've already got on my palette my titanium white, and here was it's my Mars black, but as I said earlier, it should be ivory black technically, but I'm not that technical, I just go for it, so I don't mind. So if I show you what I mean, so bear in mind when you're mixing colours, your tinting strength, and so I think you can hear my washing machine in the background, so sorry if that's really noisy. So I put some water down. These paints, especially this white, you can see it's really thick, so it often needs quite a bit of white. It doesn't, that you can see me trying to lift it up, it's really not, doesn't flow that much. So I'm going to put down quite a bit of white first of all. Usually you add the white afterwards, but these colours, especially the red, it's got a really high tinting strength, so I'm only going to need a touch of the red. So let's just mix that all in. And I always do this, always twist my brush to get rid of any excess paint. Pick up some of my yellow ochre, mix that in, and see, you can see immediately the different ratios I had there, and it's a really strong colour. So I'm going to use just the tiniest bit of red there, and you can see it turning peach. Actually, that's a lovely, it's a really warm skin tone, that one, that's nice. And you can see, look, I've just added a tiny bit more red, and you can see immediately that it's gone a bit too dark for a natural skin colour. Even if I put my hand against it, It's so much, I'm really pale anyway, but it's so much darker than my hand. But this is a great colour for like the cheek area especially. So when you're mixing up, if you've mixed up a batch of colour, never put a colour into all of that because you'll want some of that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring some to the side. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up some more white to lighten. And then pick up a little bit more yellow ochre just to get rid of the warmth in that, because that's a really warm cheek colour. And here we go, that's looking more skin tone. And then what I'll do, I'll bring a little bit to the side. And can you see there, it's getting really thick because I did more white and it's not flowing. You can see how thick that is. I personally don't like it that thick, so just at the side I've got some water. Put a little bit of water in, and I can see it flows almost immediately, so much better. And then it can come off my brush so much easier as well. So I've got a nicer brush to paint with rather than the brush that's just clogged up with lots of paint. So that's looking a lot better. Right. This is where, for some shadows, if I bring a bit over here, I'm just going to pick up a tiny bit of the black because it's such a strong colour. I even want to dot some off at the side there. And then add some in. That's quite a harsh grey, isn't it? So, I'm going to add some red to warm it up. And it goes this nice purpley colour. Can you see that? So that'll be great. Still quite dark. Is turning into a nice colour. Add a little bit more yellow ochre. With all of this, it's just a case of trial and error. Just mix it up, have some fun with it, and see how you go. So even with this, that's a really strong warm colour. So you can see I've added a bit too much red, so I'm just going to get a teeny tiny bit of black and go back in just to calm it down a bit. And then from that, do exactly the same. Pick up some white to lighten it. And then I've got some really nice skin tones coming on for some shadows. So that was with the yellow ochre, the cadmium red, titanium white, and I've got the Mars black. So if you've got the ivory black, you're lucky, you'll get some really lovely bluey tones in there, but here I've got some really nice purpley tones coming through. Right, I'm going to leave it there and then have an experiment with some of the others. So you saw I just made up some of those skin colours. I'm lucky enough to have this already in front of me, but if you don't have this, just use your sketchbook, scrappy bit of paper, anything you can, and then just with those colours that you've mixed up, I'm just going to do little samples at the side. And this is where I can see that's quite a dark colour. Even if I hold my brush over the image, it's quite a nice, it's coming through as it's matching up nicely with that really dark pinky colour at the side there for his cheeks, and even areas on his nose and around the inside of his eye as well. That'd be a great colour. I'm going to pick up the darker of the two and put that next to it. It doesn't look like much difference there, so I need to add some white in one of them. And then if I pick up that skin tone, so I made the 3 different tones, the dark one, the mid one, and then the light one. And actually they're matching quite nicely to his skin tone. He's got quite a warm, especially in this image, it's a really warm skin tone that he's got. But I'm going to give an experiment with some of the other colours. So this one, I've just used some of the processed yellow along with some of the cadmium red, and that's given me these really nice pinky tones. I am, even from looking at this, I'm drawn more to the cadmium yellow and the yellow ochre. I think they're just a little bit more natural. These are coming through just a bit too much yellow and orange and things. I'm not liking the tones in those as much. But I'll give it a go with the permanent rose and see what happens there. So this was the permanent rose, and I mixed in the cadmium yellow, and it gave me this really nice peach tone with the white as well. and then a bit more of the permanent rose for the darker cheeky colours and the shadows down the side. And then over here I've got, I always forget this colour, burnt sienna. I don't have an Indian red, so an Indian red or the burnt sienna are similar colours. So this is my burnt sienna that I've used with the white that gave me this really nice peach colour. And then I added some of that permanent rose for a side cheeky colour, but I could have used one of the reds as well. So that works really well. And then just quickly, these earth colours are brilliant for more olivey skin tones. So the yellow ochre, the burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber, so olive skin tones, ethnic skin tones especially. So all those earthy colours are brilliant for that. But for John Lennon, we need to stick to these lighter peachier tones, but you can see there's a really nice variety going there, so it doesn't really matter what colours you're mixing, you're getting these really nice skin tones. So I just did a bit of an experiment on this side that I wanted to do before showing you all. So what I've done, the colours that I made earlier that I showed you all to mix up, I've literally, since mixing them up, I did spray this with water, and I don't know if you can see any of the water droplets on there, because it dries out super quick, even though it's a stay wet palette, because I've mixed up just small quantities, it dries up super quick. So I sprayed it with water, and that's going to help thin it down as well. So I'm just going to grab a little bit over here for my lighter shade on my brush, and I've got a fairly small round brush, just so that I can control where it's going. So because I've done this big underpainting, I don't want to lose that. So what I'm going to do, I'm literally just with that light colour, just going to start adding it slowly. And this is nice, it is quite thin, the paint, but that's good, because then I'm seeing all the shades coming underneath. And then on top of that, what I'm going to do, so where I've got a shade and it's coming through grey, this is where I'm going to pick up slightly darker shade, come back and put that slightly dark shade. Now that looks a bit crazy, so this is where you can either grab yourself that brush down, a clean dry brush, you can just softly blend that in and out like so, down the side. Or if I put a bit up here, you can blend out to the edges where it's darker as well. And then obviously just use some of the other paint to blend it in. So this is quite peach, and I know this tone over here was really pink, so that's when I'm going to grab some of this pinky tone and introduce that to the side. Yeah, look, that's a lot nicer. And then I'm getting those darker pinkier tones coming in, and then I'm softly blending it over. As the paint's running out of my brush, I just go over that area and it just feathers it all in and blends it nicely, because I've got that underpainting underneath. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit more and come back. And then, oops, sorry, come over a bit. Put that down the side there. Grab some more. Just grabbed a little bit of water on my brush just to feather it in. It's coming together really quickly. Get some. So I'm going to leave it there. If the video is too long, everyone at the moment is on the internet, so it's struggling a bit, so I'm going to try and keep these videos quite short, but you get the idea. So that's building up nicely, and then how I've done that little section, I just work my way around in the different sections, and he will really come together nicely. So I'll carry on the skin, and then when I come to the hair, I'll show you other bits around there. Right, so this is my John Lennon so far. I've gone round most of his skin and on his neck. I've done his lips and his eyes. So when we did the lesson where we're looking at drawing the details, I've done exactly the same but just with paint on his lips. And you can see, if I just bring my brush around, you can see on this I've used a smaller brush than this one, and I've just done those little lines coming down on the lips in all those different shades and getting that really lovely strong highlight across there. And then the eyes was just a case of putting some brown on, some different shades of brown. So I used the yellow ochre, the burnt sienna and the raw umber for those. But any of those brown colours that you've got, just place them around the eyes. And in the sides, I'm going to send you a close-up because you can't quite see his eye. I've just done a little bit over here of a glazing technique, so I'll show you what I did there over here. So on my brush, I'm just going to pick up some yellow ochre, and again the paints that I'm using are quite watery anyway, but if yours are thick, just add a little bit of water to water them down. So if I just, having said that, that's coming on a little bit thick, so I'm just grabbing a little bit of water on my brush and just painting that on, and you can see it kind of works as a little bit like a glaze all around, so you're getting those different shades coming through underneath. Then on top of that, where I've got the yellow ochre, I'm then just going to pick up some burnt sienna on the tip of my brush and just work that in as well. And you can see how thin these are because it almost disappears into the paint as I put that on. Let me grab some more over here for these darker bits. And for that little section there. You don't have to stick to your original underpainting on this. If you want to add other colours elsewhere, you can do. So I've just picked up some raw umber on my brush there, on the tip of my brush. I'm working darker, so I've gone light, going darker for this. So you're getting all these different shades coming through. But that's still on top of everything that you've painted, and it's just bringing it to life. And that's that. So I'm just going to add a few reflections on the glass to make it actually look like glass, because at the moment they look a bit see-through. So I'm going to put just a few hard edges. There's a few in the picture. I'm going to put a hard edge where I see them. There's one going down the outer bit of his eye. Some of these I'm just making up as well, but hopefully it'll give you the impression that there's a reflective surface there. So even if I hold it against the other one, it's looking a bit more like glasses now, whereas before they look see-through. So these little bits, these finishing touches really do make a difference. I'm going to add a couple over here and maybe a few more over here, and then I'll be done.